These are 10 businesses you can start with a budget of 1 million Kenyan shilling. 1 million Kenyan shilling, it's an equivalent to, let me see, talk of 8,500 US dollars, around that amount of money. By the way, that's a quite of a good amount of money if you're here in Kenya. May not mean much if you're outside the country, precisely the first world or the so-called first world countries. And by the way, remember, I'm going to share with you step by step in a detailed way. And at the end of the day, make sure that you do your own research before starting any of the given business that I'm going to share here with you. Some of these businesses, actually most of these businesses, I've ever either started myself or I've ever related with people who are into these businesses. So I have a first-hand information sharing this information with you. Don't forget to hit that like button. Make sure that you subscribe. And obviously, at the end of the day, make sure that you leave a comment on the comment section. Let's get on the business. And by the way, I've summarized everything here on my phone. I'm obviously not on my board, so I'm going to be checking out here so that I don't miss any given point. Number one, I will give it to what we call the car detailing services. This can be either where you're selling. By the way, when it comes to car, you can start variety of businesses. First of all, car spare parts are very expensive, and at the end of the day, car spare parts can actually make you quite of a good profit margin. So when it comes to cars, you can decide to go into variety of areas. You can decide to stick to the what you call the spare parts, or you can decide to get into the car detailing services. That is where you are doing the vacuuming. This is where you're doing the car wash. This is where you are doing the lighting. You can decide to get into what we call the hardware, that is the panel beatings and whatever. Like, car has a variety of areas where you can be able to do that. For example, I actually have a guy who is my plug, who does for me, let's say, for example, is buffing, or maybe when, let me just say generally, car has money if you can get into that area. Probably you might be like, oh wow, that sounds amazing, but I'm not aware, or I do not know how to run that business. It is true, you may not be aware. Find somebody who is doing that, and then you learn something about that. I forgot about that particular name. I don't know if it's called apprenticeship. I think it's apprenticeship. You go there, you study, you get mentored, then sometimes you can even decide to be employed in a car or in a business where it is doing the car spare part selling or anything to do with car. You get employed, and yet you yourself, you have the money to start the business, but you can get employed just to gather the information for you to start that particular business. That is business number one. The business number two is what we call a mini supermarket. Most of Kenyans can relate to me what I mean by that. Sure, the million may not start you a big supermarket as we usually know it, or a hypermarket, or whichever you call it, but that a million can start you. You see, this is where you're selling almost everything. What do I mean by that? This is where you're selling the normal household. It's like an equivalent of a convenience store. If you come from America, that's what they call them. They call it there. So these mini supermarkets where you are selling things both in wholesale and in retail form, and you're targeting the daily consumption products. For example, talk of wheat flour, maize flour, talk of breads, likes of the sugar, wheat, and what have you. All those commodities you can decide to. This business, I can tell you for sure, it does not have a big profit margin, meaning the much you buy and the much you sell isn't that big, but I can tell you, you can be able to move in volumes. For example, if you show up to a typical supermarket in Kenya, name them Naivas, Quickmart, whatever, you will be able to actually to see they don't really rely on them making a big profit margin between the selling and the buying price, but they leverage on what we call moving volumes or large amount of that small profit, then at the end of the day cumulatively ends up becoming quite of a big profit. So mini supermarket, precisely this one, you target businesses, or you target residential places, you target places where we have quite a flow of people. Obviously, this one, the equation of the traffic, you have to do a good research for you to establish this business, especially in a residential area where you find a lot of people are residing in that area. You can just set up them a business. But I can tell you, each and every business usually comes its fair share of its risks involved. Now, the other business that I can also recommend when it comes to this is none other than what we call the water supply or the bulk water supply. You can do both retailing, and you can also do what we call the wholesaling. The water supply, I have to give you a disclaimer here. This business is one of the most regulated business in Kenya. Like the licensing and the permits needed to start a water refill business or something like that, I'm telling you, it's quite high. You need a lot of money. And for that matter then, as much as they have a lot of regulations and what, personally, I dealt with a client who is outside this country and started a water plant somewhere. I won't mention where, but we started from scratch all the way to zero. he tasked me with everything from, he had a borehole, what we call desalination of that water, packaging it and everything when it comes to importing of machinery. For him, the budget was a bit higher, not a million, but he's doing something good. But for him, he was totally going what we call the wholesaling and supply distribution. But for you, with a million, you can be able to target somewhere, maybe in town or in the residential area, because nowadays people are becoming more, especially if you come from the Rift Valley, precisely the likes of Nakuru, the Naivasha, and what have you. Find those places do not have quite over fresh water. The water has a lot of fluorine, and as a result, you find people have discoloration when it comes to their teeth and what have you. And obviously, they wouldn't really want to, sort of empty this problem to their children. And that means that they also consider exactly what they're drinking in terms of water. So people are becoming more aware. Or when it comes to this water thing, you can also do a certain business that I realized. I'm sorry, making videos from now. I realized there is a certain pump or a certain machine that you're fixing it under your washing, what do you call it, the sink or something like that. This car washing machine is going for an average of 40,000 Kenyan shilling. That's like less than $400. And this machine, you're fixing it under your sink, and this machine is able to purify water, meaning it's just the water from the normal piping that you have in your house runs through that machine, but the now time you're turning that particular tap, you're getting a fresh water. Has actually done what we call the desalination. I may not tell you the science behind it, but I have seen those machines. You can even get yourself into supplying and distribution of those machines, and you can be able to be making something. You target these people from the middle class, the middle upper, and high-end places. You can be able to supply all those machines. Sure, there will be a challenge when you're starting, but ultimately you can do something on that. The other business that I can recommend, I cannot finish this video without mentioning it, it's pharmacy. For those who have been watching me for quite a long time, this is a business that is on my fingertips. I have an experience of this business. I know it in and out. I come from a family whereby we kind of have a touch or here and there on this particular business, so I know it. This is a business. True, again, this is a business that has a lot of high regulations, and you need a lot of what do we call permits for you to start this business. Obviously, you are dealing with people's health. And I know you'll be like, okay, but I'm not a pharmacist. Sure, you can actually get into a contract with somebody who has studied pharmacist, and so that you can have the one who is selling the medicine on the counter. We call them the superintendent. You employ them, then you can get the licensing and permits, and you can start that particular business. Has a very good profit margin. Talk of an average of 33% of whatever you buy. So you can be able to make quite of a good amount of money on this business. I won't stress much on this pharmacy business. I mean, it's no brainer. Pharmaceutical industry, not only in Kenya but globally, they are known to make billions of profits, and I'm saying billions in tunes of $1 billion, not Kenyan shilling or birr or naira or kwacha or pula or whatever you call them in your country. So they make quite of a good money in terms of profit. Now, the other business is quite interesting. I'm seeing it taking quite a good shape. This is what we call the cleaning services. And I wouldn't want you to just do cleaning services. You can do the cleaning services, combine it with movers. What are these? These are people who migrate you from one place to the other. Back then, we used to just, what we call contract a certain pickup somewhere or a lorry somewhere with just an average people. You tell them, hey, I just want to, migrate from this place to relocate to a different place. They just chunk in all your items and throw in your in their pickup, and by the time now you're migrating, you realize some of things are broken and what. I mean, they're doing it in a very unprofessional way. But nowadays we have people who are called movers, meaning they just come to your place, you tell them where you're going, you show them where you are going, and of course you show them where you're coming from, and then they will package everything. I mean, this is so nice. They just come to, they wrap your recliners, they wrap everything, they make sure that they not only migrate you, they also make sure that the way they have actually gotten your house, they replicate that in the new house that you're migrating. So these are called movers, and you can actually combine both movers and the cleaning services. This way you can do the vacuum cleaning for the carpets, you can do it for the chairs and couches and recliners, whatever you call them, generally housekeeping and house cleaning. This is quite of a good business. Well, but obviously you're targeting people on what we call the the middle people and the upper middle and what have you, or even high end. There is a guy whom I usually follow on TikTok. I mean, he's a guy who moves around from place to place, and this guy, he's doing what we call the mobile car wash. He's cleaning cars. I don't know how many of you have seen this guy on the TikTok. Recently I saw him washing a McLaren, and those are cars cost 60 million, 50 million, 100 million. I mean, expensive cars. These are sport cars. This is what this guy cleans, and it just walks into your home and does the cleaning. I'm not saying you do that, but what I'm telling you is that people are now turning out to, contracting people so that they can do those services when it comes to cleaning and what have you, even to some extent running what we call the errands. All right. We go to the other one. This is the butchery thing. You combine it to where the children can play. You also do what we call the smokies. You can do also what we call the trauma zone, kind of a place where a family can show up on a weekend or on any typical day, or sort of like a stopover. People can just show up to your place. They can take some nyama choma, because nyama choma is quite of a thing in Kenya, with some ugalis and some fries and what have you, and they can relax. You can give them some vibes, and obviously you can get a place where kids can play. Sure, this may be a bit challenging, because obviously now you'll be necessitated to get quite of a spacious room or a place. You can actually decide to go a certain roadside and you lease a land, and you can get this structure in place, and then you can start there, and then you can do some car wash there. As people are eating their lunch, those who have cars, they can get their cars cleaned and something like that. Children are playing there as parents are taking their food, and I mean, you get what I'm saying. Yeah, sort of like a family friendly setup whereby you can do some business there. Another one you can do that goes hand in hand with this one, that is if your beliefs, if your customs and cultural beliefs allows you to do so. This is where you can do the what do you call them, the wines and spirit, the bar. This is where people simply come here and take their drinks in one way or the other. I mean, that's also I said, if you can do it. I know Muslims can do that. Personally, I can do it because of my own beliefs and something like that. But if you can, if you can, then you can be able to set up this business where people can come and take some few drinks here and there. Listen, do you know over 12 million people take alcohol every day in Kenya? We have a population of approximately 51, 2, 3 or somewhere about. But we have 12 million people taking alcohol every day. And you know what? They drink an average of 100 bob in every day. So that means you can do the mathematics. That's a lot of money. By the way, I usually watch some people coming from outside their country, coming to this country, and they are saying Kenya and alcohol, they are intertwined. They are just like this. People take for example, right now, I'm making this video at around 11 a.m. in the morning. If I can just drive to a place where they are selling alcohol, you find people drinking. It's literally in the morning, people are drinking. Late night, people are drinking. It's like even the 5 p.m. rule here in Kenya it doesn't work. Anyway, you'll actually rub shoulders with the government if you actually go ahead and do that. But I'm not saying that Kenyans, we don't have, those rules and regulations. We do have them. But Kenyans are known to drink a lot. They drink a lot. I'm telling you, party after party, these people. And obviously, what does that mean? That is where you can actually make some cash. Listen, let me give you a tip about life. Whenever or wherever lies a human weakness, there is a lot of money to be made. Let me repeat that. Wherever lies a human weakness, there is a lot of money to be made. If a country becomes too ignorant, there is a lot of money to be made. For example, most of the African countries, the populists are ignorant. So that's why you find the leaders take advantage of them. If I pull an average Kenyan and ask them, if your MP is not performing, an MP means a member of parliament. It's an equivalent of a congressperson in America. If I pull an average Kenyan and ask them, hey, if your MP is not performing, how can we get that guy out of power? They don't know. They don't know. If they collect some few signatures there, they submit to the IBC, it's a body responsible for the elections. They can remove that guy, but they do not know. Either they know, they ignore. So whenever lies a human weakness, whether you're leading people who are ignorant, you're likely to be in power for a very long period of time. 2, let me not get there. But whenever lies a human weakness, there's a lot of money to be made. And that's why you find most of the beauty industries are targeting ladies, because they know they are beauty enthusiasts. That's why they are having, anyway. The other business that you can actually go into is the gas cylinder, supply of gas and what have you. In Kenya, we usually have these cylinders where you squeeze the gas inside there, a very tightened one, then you supply. If you come from developed countries, they usually have a piped one. But anyway, that's a business that you can get yourself into, and you can do it both retailing, and you can also do the wholesaling, and you can also offer what we call the delivery services. So actually, with $1 million, you can get yourself a quite of a decent supply. You can actually get variety of these businesses, or rather variety of companies that you can be able to start from there. Lastly, but not the least, obviously, the last two, it's the farming. high-end farming. Show up to an up-country place, go to Nyandarua, go to places like Kajiado, go to Narok, go to places like Embu, Meru, and whatever. Go to Western countries. I have a friend of mine who is doing sugarcane farming, and the dude is making quite of a good money. You know, he goes to the Western country, he leases a land, he does the sugar planting, he waits for the next like 15 months, and then he gets his money, and something like that is making money. So some people even going to Kitale, they're leasing land, they're planting maize, they're getting... Listen, future billionaires and millionaires will come from 3 industries, if you ask me. 1, the beauty industry. People are so enthusiastic. Even men nowadays are doing beauty. 2, you come from the technology, the AI, and everything related to technology. And lastly, farming. You can't download a burger from your computer. You still need farmers. And by the way, the funny thing is that you need farmers 3 times in a day. The morning, the afternoon, and obviously the supper. Lastly, the Airbnb is also a good business. This one has a lot of moving parts, but if you can be able to market your Airbnb business out there, if you can actually go and get yourself a random, say a bedsit or a studio, say in Kilimani, Kileleshwa, or whichever, randomly in a place, and then you can actually be able to advertise that particular property. You can list it in on Airbnb, you can put it on booking.com, and you can actually put it on social media, and I can tell you for sure, I saw somebody who is living somewhere. As much as this guy is living there, he's making some cash out of where he lives. Imagine he lives in that particular home, but it is listed on Airbnb. Meaning, whenever he gets a client, he gets out of his home, and then after that, that's how he makes some cash. So anyway, guys, I don't want to make this video too long. Those are 10 businesses that you can do, and I hope you've gotten something. Pick one that works for you and you get started. This is good, Joseph. And by the way, most of these businesses, I have already written business plans. If you need those copies, shoot me a text on my WhatsApp. You get your copy. For now, it's a goodbye. See you the next one.
Nikatiki.